Hey, what's up to all the free thinkers and wild people and kind, empathetic souls and unempathetic monsters on the internet? It's Wisecrack Live on September 20th. It's Michael Burns here with producer Henry. As always, it's good to see everyone in the chat already. You know, we're starting on time. And often when a video comes out and it goes on VOD after we do it live, some very nice person will go through and leave a comment that's like, stream actually starts at, 8:31. I always try to pin those. But today we're just getting right into it. So hi everyone who's here, Eric and Callie and Chris and Andrew and our guy Nelson and Paul Matthew. You're catching it live. I'm glad that you are here live. Reclaimed Dasein. We love Heidegger based names in the chat. Dominic with the green username. Ryan's here for the start. Um, let's see. Darek says, I was hoping this was a pre made video. Live videos tend to be 2 hours of messing around and 20 minutes of actually talking about the topic of the video. Yes. Yes. But we'll try to get into it. We'll try to keep it on point today. Natasha's shocked by the promptness. Outright Tiny hopes everyone's doing well. Pronounceable name says hello. But we'll keep it relatively quick today, and I'll tell you why. Because honesty is the best policy here. Um, and some of you that are anti-vaccine are going to judge me right now. I got one of the new. What's up, Daniel Santiago Hurtado? No Henley today. I couldn't do it 2 weeks in a row. For those who are anti-science, you're going to be mad at me. I got an updated COVID vaccine booster thing yesterday, thinking that I would not have side effects. And for the first 10 hours, I felt great. And then I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like I was dying. And then I had to get up very early, kind of take care of a newborn baby for a bit and drive an hour in traffic to get here. So I'm feeling like what the French would call lay shit. So I'm going to see how long we can go today. We also, um, you know, film our videos there. We're going to film a couple videos after this, so I got to make sure I manage my energy. So there you go. Dante Payne, first time comment. Good to see you here. Um, let's see. Peter said no band tee today. Peter, I had two band t-shirts out on the bed when I was getting dressed, and I was like, I won't do it. I'm not gonna. I'll take a day off of having a band tee. I'll go plain tee, because to let you into my closet a little bit. Julia likes to stream on Wednesday better. I like to make Julia happy. Justin Torres, you and your wife are also just sheeple listening to Big Pharma. So I'm glad that we're doing that together. Yeah, inside my closet, I have plain colored tees, mostly blue, black, or gray, and band tees. That's all I have. I do have a band hat today. This is made by friends Dead Inside in Chicago. They host, if you're in the Chicago area, they host vinyl only psychedelic Grateful Dead events in bars and make really cool hats, tees, koozies, buttons, things like that. So this is from them. Um, so we still got a little something going there. Rascal, first live stream joined. Very excited to have you here. So you might have seen for Dante said first time commenter, long time listener. So glad to have you all here today. Obviously, on our thumbnail, we have our friend, someone who I feel like everyone liked until last week, Drew Barrymore. So hold on, I'm changing my volume on this. But we got a little annoyed at Drew Barrymore. If you don't know the whole story here, we'll get into it. Peter Yang gets it. Uh, Plain tees are great. What's up, Dare? What's up, Megan? Megan says Union strong, and we agree with Megan Colleen McLean. That's a good. I hate to point you out, Megan. Megan Colleen McLean is a sick three-parter name. So, as someone that you know often leads with my middle name as well, I really fuck with that. Um, oh man, Drew got laid off, and that sucks. And we're sorry that you got laid off, and hopefully this gets taken care of soon. Outright Tiny almost forgot to lick the stream. Um, like the stream if you haven't yet. It helps us out. Here's a fun thing. You might notice some people have green usernames. I'll get back to the Drew Barrymore thing in a second. Don't worry, I didn't forget. You can be a member of our channel, which means you get some perks on streams. So that's fun. We have new emotes coming out next week. Listen, I was just in a chat with my friend and yours, Michael Luxembourg, going over some of the emotes that we're going to drop for the members next week. One of my notes for one of the emotes, and you guys can guess what this one was about, was Can the hole be bigger and closer to his mouth? A thing that I typed on a work message to my colleague conveying this to a paid graphic designer was, can the hole be bigger and closer to his mouth? You might be able to guess what that emote is. So there you go. Um, oh, I didn't say new emos. No emo band. But so we have our friend, former friend Drew Barrymore on the thumbnail. Some of you might have known this. We've talked about it before, but obviously the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America, both largely based here in Los Angeles, California, horrible town. It's good in some ways. Are yeah, Natasha said, where do we get more emotes next week? Probably. So there you go. We just got to get all the holes ready. Um, sorry, I was just getting a call from my pharmacy. Speaking of ADHD, which we talk about, I just got the thing from my pharmacy that says that my preferred ADHD medication is out of stock, so I have to wait to get it because America is a second world country where you can't get a simple medication that helps you function. I love it here. Um, Nelson, it is. But we've been talking about the strike before. We all know that the Hollywood industry has largely been shut down. Obviously, that's not just in LA. There's cities across the country where a lot of people rely on the film and television industry for work. And Drew Barrymore, a host a daytime talk show, announced she was going to come back without her writers. People were very upset. And then she posted a video where she was apologizing for coming back, but then she still said, "But I'm still going to do it though." And then she finally said, "Okay, we're not bringing my show back because I'm being a scab right now." Now, one thing we'll talk about this more later. This is me just teasing the topic because we're going to do some preparatory activities before we get into it. Um, we're definitely getting a 666 emo, Peter, so don't even worry about it. Uncivilized games, yeah, you get it. So, um, one thing that some might say, and they said this about Bill Maher, notorious, just idiot, human piece of shit, is also bringing his show back. And people will say things like, well, what about people that work on their staffs? What about them losing wages? And you're right, like that sucks. It totally sucks. But two things: A, it's not the fault of the unions; it's the fault of the studios for not paying people. And two, I'm just gonna guess that Drew Barrymore has multi-generational wealth, and if she really wants to be a hero, she could pay her staff salaries in the meantime. I'll just say it. Give people money. Um, Drew in the chat says, "I'm proud the US is finally seeing the inequality of wealth. I hope we can actually have a cultural revolution because this just ain't it." Um, that's true. Bingo Bear says, "If you have ADHD, start knitting instead of taking pills." That sounds really hard. That sounds really hard. Julia says the ADHD med thing is starting to creep into Canada too. Shout out to all of our attention deficit friends in the chat. Shout out to all our friends who don't. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of why I want to talk about that today. Also, as someone already brought up, the United Auto Workers Union in America, largely based in the Midwest, has also gone on strike. So, we're having an interesting moment in America where people are thinking collectively about work, about their relationship to the people that own the places that they work at. There was a really interesting interview. I think it was on CNN with the person who like is the CEO of General Motors, and they were talking about the strikes, and the interviewer said to her like, "Hey, BT Dubs, you made like $290 million last year. Why can't the people that make the cars have a little more money?" And she did the best job of not answering that question. Pretty crazy. um let's see. Jesse says, "Doing a talk show without writing isn't scamming. This backlash has been ridiculous." It actually is. I don't want to like go too deep into this, but it actually is scabbing because it directly it's in direct violation of the WGA rules for the strike. So it actually is. Now you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with it, but it is. Let's see. Natasha brings up that meanwhile Ford makes commercials about how their cars are built in America. Yes, Michael, you're allowed to be late, but I am marking it down. I'm marking it down, Michael Dodge. Marking you late. So let's start by looking at some of the comments that our main man, producer Henry's pulled up. If I just let's see, I think if I just click this, it'll show them to me. Um, I want to see if they start at the right place. The first one I'm seeing, Henry, is the one that says your story about your dad. Is that the first one for you? Awesome. Wait, and do you remember what video is this one? Oh, this is from the stream. Yeah. So there's some comments from last week's stream. Wait, this is a good question. Henry might know this, and I'm gonna just admit my ignorance here. Dark says, is scab an acronym or just a term? Um, I don't know. Extraneous says, if this stream was on traditional network TV, wouldn't you be considered a scab? No, because we're not a part of any union. So if for example, Wisecrack or our parent company had an agreement with the Writers Guild where our staff were a part of that union and we had relationships with studios, then this would be considered a form of scabbing, but we are not unionized. So all the strike stuff right now isn't affecting digital media because most digital media is non-unionized and doesn't go through the studio
I
system. So
don't
there you
believe
go.
scab is an acronym. I think it's
Yeah,
just
Dominic says scab is literal.
yeah, I think it's literal. Like yeah, scurvy, scaby. There's a few of those SC words that were very like early 1900s slang for someone who you found like contemptible. So I think scabs in that vein.
Yeah, extraneous put the definition in the chat. Just a reminder to everyone, we don't get political here. We just try to understand society. Our only standard is we think it's cool when people get paid enough money to live a good life. If you disagree with that, let me know. I've got people, some people in the comments of recent videos have kind of gotten a little spicy, testy, whatever about stuff. And I've just said to them, like, I don't think we're being too political. We just think it's cool if people can live a good life. And I want to know what the counter argument is, because a lot of times people are like, oh, these workers ask for too much. It's like, okay, so where do you fall on this morally, ethically, politically? Is your POV that like people don't deserve things and that we live in a, I don't know, like Hunger Games esque society? I don't know. I don't know, guys. There was also, when you talk about this later, we're gonna get back to the comments. A professional philosopher had this really dumb tweet about how it's like unethical and dehumanizing to call someone a scab. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Okay, so let's look at these comments. These are from last video. Just a reminder too, all of our streams go up after the fact as VODs. You can always watch them later and you can leave comments later. So this person said, your story about your dad is the reason I left my trades job and I'm working on my dream goal. Lately, I've been thinking I made a mistake, so thanks for sharing the story. The irony of the rich trying to become spiritually enlightened through their money, getting upset at their lower tiered employees wanting a living wage cracks me up. And this is, we talked about the rich asshole from Australia that said that people should like go hungry and unemployment should go up to make workers more grateful. Let's note that he apologized after that stream. I would like to think it's because of us. Elijah Gaming from Mississippi, good to see you. Um, so we did have an effect on the world, but the story I told for anyone that missed it was my dad telling me when he was a little bit older before he passed away that he had a sense of regret for spending so much of his adult life working like all the time. And I say this with no disrespect to my dad. I know he was trying his best, but it was one of those situations growing up where like he missed, talent shows and sporting events and things like that a lot because he'd be out of town working. And he looked back and said, I did that so we could, have a house and go on vacation, all this sort of shit. But at the end of the day, like he wished he would have spent more time with his family. And one thing I mentioned he said is he said something to the effect of like, I sometimes wish that I would have been a high school English teacher and basketball coach or something like that. So again, it's easy to say that. It's hard because of course we all know that not having money also sucks. But yeah, so that's where that comment comes from. Let's check out the next comment from that. This is from Zach Atakata. They said I gotta know the ball sweat joke. Now this relates to 9/11. If you weren't on the stream last week, you're thinking, what is he talking about? When I was in high school, remember guys, I'm old. So we thought stuff was funny in 2000 and 2001. Not funny now. It's not appropriate. I'm not saying this is good, but me and my friends in high school did a thing. I went to high school in Florida, and we were sweating all the time. September in Florida, very hot. And if we got sweaty, let's say your hand's sweaty or your hair is sweaty when you had hair, we'd rub our hand somewhere on our body that was sweaty and then rub it across one of our friends' faces, like their mouth, and then tell them that it was ball sweat. So I was doing that to my friend Daniel the moment I turned around and saw that the second plane hit the tower. And my teacher got very mad at me when that happened. So that was the joke. It was not good. I don't like it. So there you go. Jacob has been job searching for a few weeks. It's crazy stressed and hunting almost all day, every day. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that. You've watched your videos. Job hunting sucks. Shout out to everyone who is job hunting. I'll have to job hunt again one day. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't gonna last forever. Um, so another comment from Books Long says, guys, it's cool. He apologized, talking about our Australian friend. Um, let's see. I assume this next comment from I am Bananas 007 is from the Guardians video. Yeah. Natasha, I did hear that Twitter/X is going to start charging users for a subscription. It's crazy. Also, a bunch more people I know got banned from Twitter in the past week. One person did for making a comment about the guillotine. They just like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Guntown, you're right. You're right. I was a horrible person. So this is from the video we did on James Gunn, algorithms, movies. Please watch it if you haven't. Because the thing about this video too, it's like on movies, people are just out here like talking about how we never talk about movies.
Here you
This
go.
comment says, I'm glad this is getting recognized and talked about. TV, movies, and music is becoming a bloated mess of regurgitated formulaic crap over the past decade. It's hard to wade through it to find the good, unique stuff. It is. It is. Michael did 7-Eleven. It's especially true these days. We can talk about this later, but a bunch of headlines came out yesterday and I'm forgetting the person's name. We'll get it in a second. That the director of the Marvels uh, has already said that making the movie was really confusing and they didn't understand what was going on half the time, and it was basically Kevin Feige's movie that they were just fostering. So it's always a good sign when before a movie comes out, the director of the movie is already saying like, I didn't really understand what we were doing, yada yada yada. So it's gonna be a mess, would be my prediction. Another comment from I think Levi Walton said, we're not sick of superhero movies, we're sick of bad superhero movies. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I want there to be good ones. Someone said in the chat, Elon broke Twitter. Did anyone see the tweet someone had that said like there was like a news story that Elon was gonna end his life, and then there was a community note that was like, "This is true." It was
Yeah.
really great.
Wouldn't be the first time he took someone else's better idea.
Yeah, I do love too that he brought up the charging for Twitter thing when he was doing a live stream with Benjamin Netanyahu. What world do we live in, guys? What world do we live in? Let's see. Dominic's talking about doing cover letters. Solidarity to that. I still don't know how to write a cover letter. Um, I've been kind of lucky that I've kind of fallen into jobs via part-time work, so I haven't had to like formally apply for things. But one time I did, and I did what I thought a cover letter was supposed to look like. And the friend who was looking at it was like, "This sucks, man. This really sucks." This next comment says, "So this is on the debate video. We did a video on debate because we love debate. This is a debate stream. We're here to talk about controversial issues." Says, I legit hated debate in high school. It all felt so fake. It was a competition on who could talk fast and not accidentally sound like an ass. It was never about truth. It was about raw charisma. Yeah, that's real. And there was a lot of comments on the debate video. A few of them were like, "This all sounds like it's said by a guy who's afraid to debate." And I commented back to some of them and was like, "Totally. I don't like debate. I don't think it's fun. I don't enjoy it. I love talking about ideas, and I would love nothing more than to sit down with any of you, including master debater Michael Dodge, and have a drink, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, caffeinated, non-caffeinated, whatever you like, and talk about ideas. And I would love it if in the context of talking about those ideas, one of you pushed back at something I said and was like, I don't really know about that. And then we could have a debate or sort of a discussion. But the important thing for me would be that in the context of that discussion, we would be aiming towards some shared uh, telos of truth or justice or understanding. What I wouldn't want to do is if we sat down and have a drink and I said something like, let's think, I don't know, like white supremacy is bad. And if you wanted to be like, well, actually, it's not, and here's why. That's not fun. I like don't want to do that because I think that we can, as thinking people, have principles that are axiomatic in our thinking. So, like for me, the principle of equality, pretty big principle, not something I really want to argue against. So if you want to like argue or debate on something that posits that the principle of equality is incorrect or invalid, then we probably shouldn't talk because I axiomatically do not agree with you. And I'm not willing to, some people will be like, well, we got to hear all sides. I don't. I don't need to hear all sides if you're going to be like, oh, white supremacy is good. If you're like the governor of Florida and you're like, oh, well, slaves learned valuable skills. Nope, don't got to talk to you about that. So that's where I'm at with that. Natasha says, I hate what debating has become, but I believe we should remain open to other ideas and perspectives. Today's popularity contests are not debates. Yeah. But for sure, like, I almost feel like if we are in agreement that we're trying to understand the world better, we're trying to understand ethics better, economics better, philosophy, religion, whatever, and we have like a shared goal, then let's go for it. But if we just want to win, I don't know. Maybe it's because I was bad at sports, guys. I don't feel the need to win at things. I don't feel the need to win. Do you have a desire to win, Henry? Do you ever feel that in your life?
Not like in that debate sense. I have like personal internal like self benchmark like kind of standard things as far as like what I want to do with
Yeah.
my life, but not really like in ways that require me to destroy other people. Um I think another thing that rings very hollow with debate is like at the end of the day, no matter which side wins, it's like are any senators listening to these guys?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
who are they actually like what material politics does it translate to after like two dudes win a YouTube debate? Like do they have a local representative who's listening? Do they have like a local
Well,
organization they're
yeah,
doing stuff with? Like what's it serving? Because a lot of the times you bring up sports, it is spectacle.
for sure. And I think in a way, it's like when we get into this in the debate video, what is the point of some of these debates online, guys? The point isn't truth. The point isn't influencing policy. The point isn't changing the world through changing minds. The point is just like clicks. And I get it. Like you can't if someone's job is to make stuff on this website or other content websites, you got to get the clicks. But let's be honest about what the goal of those things are. In the same way that certain professional sports, the goal is ratings. It's incidental that someone wins or loses. So we got to be like honest with that. Now one could say like, but but isn't that what you're doing? Yeah, but I think that our goal, and then maybe this is why we're not as successful as some other channels, like I think we're pretty honest. And I think for especially those of you who watch the streams and stuff, you know that I changed my mind. I'll admit that I'm wrong. Things like that. I'm gonna jump into this next comment. Before I do that, again, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to point out Mr. Cynic18 in the chat says, I don't think a lot of people realize they're even trying to win, even if they are. And to me, I think there's
Yeah,
some truth to that. I think a lot of American culture, like debate broism, and like there's still like a nugget of like, I don't know. I think it's like a millennial evolution of like keeping up with the Johnsons mentality, where like people don't even realize like they're trying to like out conspicuous consume each other, or just kind of like do debate for the sake of performing, for the sake of getting eyes on them. It strikes me as
yeah,
really like recently with all the Russell Brand news going on, Ben Shapiro came out defending
mhm,
him simply because Ben Shapiro's on the same, political side or whatever as Russell Brand in his mind. And
yeah,
it's like, this is a totally unnecessary conversation that's not doing anything for anybody. The only reason you have this is because you're on like autopilot and you think you need to spew this shit.
yeah. Um, Orion, thank you for that comment in the chat. So, A. Malloy says people conflate debate with a verbal sparring. Mickey says they could mention a left-wing debate, bro, and ruin this chat. Don't ruin the chat. But we do think this happens on the left too, just to be clear.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah. Gabriel, glad you're here. We're just hanging out. Emperor, thank you so much for checking out the stream. Shake and Bacon wants to get that raw dome, so definitely like the stream if you can. I just want clicks. I just want content. I'm here to lie and make things up. I'm here to perform to get your clicks. I have no soul. I have no conception of truth or a desire to make the world a better place. I just want raw clicks. That's all I fucking care about. I'm kidding. Um, yeah, and I do think again, like this is why sometimes I know that we can get people get on us for maybe being too critical of certain sides of the cultural, social, and political debate. But like, people on the left, on the liberal side do this too. Like, whether it's liberals like the Pod Save America people or people on the left like Chapo Trap House and others, there are people who certain times feel like they're just like using politics as content for uh things like that. Let me see. I think I lost the comments.
We're on seven.
Someone
We're on
talked about
the
the days in high
seventh
school.
one.
Is this the one that says video idea? Oh, cool. So one more comment, guys, says video idea. People who declare they rely on their own personal experiences over the last few years has become a common sentiment that drives me up the wall. Yeah, that has become a thing on ye old internet, um, where people, and I think this was a big top G thing that reading's bad because like it's all about like living life and like doing the real thing and like how books are bad and stuff like that.
I
So
only ascertain
yeah, I
knowledge
think
through
it's fun.
gnosis.
Mhm. I mean, this is kind of related to this, but Dare Johnson, yeah, that video is good. I want to watch it again. I mean, what were we just saying? Oh yeah, this is why I had an idea, or we all had an idea on the Wisecrack team to maybe make a video kind of about the video essay as a form of intellectual exploration and maybe the good and the bad of that. Because I do think in some ways video essays are valid, useful, and helpful forms of idea exploration, but in some ways they can be pretty bad. So, you know, um, ooh, let's see. I just want to look back. There's like spicy subtlety in the comments, and now I just like want to know who's talking about what. Um, I think I get what's being said. Okay, sorry, getting too into it. Um, but yeah, like the stream if you're here. I really appreciate it. We're glad that you're here. So let's dive in a little bit. I guess we should start with hmm. Should we start? Oh, let me open up the watch together. We got awesome. Let me open that up. And everyone, as always, huge shouts to Henry, even more than usual. He's really holding it down these days, getting everything set up for these streams so I can just show up half alive and go. So if you're not actively sending love to Henry in the chat, please do so. Another thing I will say before I get into it, yes, Peter Jang, we did do that video. Um, Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I tweeted about this from the Wisecrack Twitter account this week. Not that I'm on there as someone who's banned from Twitter, not that I would be tweeting from our account. Also, ADHD moment. Guys, I think I figured out who got me kicked off Twitter. I think it's the person who's still obsessed with the comment I made in a Culture Binge episode 2 years ago about how I would be bummed if I was a child at Disney and there was a bunch of Disney adults in front of me in the line. And this person is convinced that I think it's funny that they had like an abusive childhood and that's why they like to go to Disney. I had to delete like legit 50 comments from our recent videos where this person is like, "Can Michael tell me why he jokes about my childhood abuse?" And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But that person was also getting after me on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure they're the one that got my account deleted. So I hope they're okay. And I hope that person, you know what, if that person watches this because they're just obsessed with me, I feel weird saying that. I hope you're doing okay. I don't think it's funny that you had a rough childhood at all. I think it's ironically funny sometimes the idea that children go to a theme park and there's adults in front of them making their life harder, but that doesn't mean it's okay that you had a rough childhood. I had a rough childhood in some ways too, and I'm really sorry that that happened. But me kind of tongue in cheek making fun of Disney adults is not me saying that I'm happy that you had a rough go as a kid. I'll just say it. Um, yeah, I did get the Disney Adult Mafia. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the Drew Barrymore clip. So
Drew
again, I'll
Barrymore is
pause
putting
it
her
before it
daytime talk show
starts.
on hold. I am making the decision.
Why is my watch together being. Oh, there we
Drew
go.
Barrymore is putting her daytime talk
Is it
show
loading for
on
you now?
hold. I am making the decision. Drew Barrymore is putting her
So
daytime
weird.
talk
Let me
sh-
click it
daytime
again
talk
for me. It's not working. Okay, now I see the YouTube thing. Okay, here we go. It's loading up for me now. Okay. All right. Cool. You guys aren't here to look at me anyways. I'm not really much to look at, especially today. So let's create some context again, everyone. Um, let me just check one thing. Um, sorry guys. I'm always just, trying to make sure things are working well. I want to make sure my audio is on the right thing. Oh, that's what it was. I had to change a setting for that. So again, to set the context, everyone, the actors and the writers are on strike. Why are they on strike? Because feel like they're not getting a fair deal from the studios and the streamers in particular. One of the biggest issues with this, or two of the biggest issues, one being the use of artificial intelligence and automated systems in both the creation of performers and the creations of written material. The other thing is that writers and actors are not getting, um, residuals for starring in streaming things. Streamers aren't giving them numbers, yada 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 yada. And Drew Barrymore taps into this sort of thing. If for any reason you're wondering, my video is wildly choppy. I could like reduce the quality of my video. I could go to 720 or something. Um, but what was I gonna say? Uh, man. All right, cool. Well, let's go. What's up, Moises? Glad to see you here. Um, okay, sorry that the video is giving you seizures, guys. Hopefully it works itself out. What if, guys, maybe my employer should get me a better computer for the stream. Maybe if I'm doing the stream, I shouldn't be using my own 3-year-old laptop. Maybe 4-year-old. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Okay, I'll check this clip out.
Drew Barrymore is putting her daytime talk show on hold. I am making the decision to pause the show's premiere until the writer's strike is over, she says. Last Friday, the actress fought back tears as she announced that season 4 of her popular show would premiere today.
I would just take full responsibility for my actions. This is bigger than me, and there are other people's jobs on the line.
But her announcement ushered in criticism from Rosie O'Donnell and other big names, and now Drew is changing course. I have no words to express my deepest apologies to anyone I have hurt. We really tried to find our way forward.
For her to reverse course within less than 48 hours, this clearly happened fairly quickly. And I have heard from sources that the pressure just became too much. The backlash was obviously way too much to ignore.
CBS Media Ventures, which produces the Drew Barrymore show, says in a statement, "We support Drew's decision to pause the show's return and understand how complex and difficult this process has been for her." Following Drew's decision, other talk shows are making similar announcements, including The Talk, The Jennifer Hudson Show, and Real Time with Bill Maher.
And it appears that while she was trying to do the right thing and while she had good intentions, this did not work out.
So, I mean, the interesting thing here, right, is that she said she was bringing the show back, and people were not happy. And like, the interesting thing here, it wasn't just angry lefty bros on the internet there. Yeah, James Buchanan says, "Let's celebrate and change their mind." Absolutely. Um, but it wasn't just it was like pretty middle of the road folks. It was a lot of pretty famous TV writers and actors and stuff like that were the ones who were like, "Hey, this sucks. This feels bad, and this seems to be both counter to what your industry, Drew Barrymore, as an actor and someone who creates content, is aiming for. Um, it's sort of actively fighting against, or it's actively in lack, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's exhibiting no solidarity with the people that you work with. Now, her first reaction after the backlash was to apologize, but say she was still doing it and to keep saying, like, I take responsibility for this, which I appreciate. Um, but it took her a few tries to really say she'd stop doing it. Um, I mean, I think part of me, and I always say on this show that if we had political ideals, one of them would be empathy. I guess I empathize with the fact that I don't think Drew Barrymore lived. I mean that in a mean way, but she's from Hollywood royalty. She's been an actor since she was a very small child. Um, I don't think she's ever. I know she struggled in her own life with addiction and things like that, which is also very serious and important, and is hard to overcome those. And genuinely good for her to be in a healthy place. But I don't think she's had a lot of material economic struggle in her life, which I think means that she might just have a lack of awareness of the stakes of things like these for working people. Like an example, for example, there's people in LA um, who who have lost their homes, who are unable to pay bills, who are having to rely on others because of money now. Matt, where was this? I just saw it in the chat. Matt Griffin said, "I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA. Solidarity with you, Matt." And it was just laughable that Barrymore went back on her word after experiencing scrutiny and dragged for having such a privileged idea about her original decision. Um, let's see. Thornjack said she was doing coke at 12. Her brain can't be that sharp. That's so real, by the way. That's so scary. I've never done coke. I don't want to do coke, but I can't imagine what it's like to do coke at 12. Also, Rocky Roo. Hey, thanks. I really appreciate that. And I like that you love Big Lebowski and Soren Kierkegaard because I like those two things too. Um, let's see. I don't see who this is responding to, but just a reminder is I think sometimes my audio is doing that choppy thing again. Guys, we're fucked. They need to buy me new gear. Um, but important reminder that we might think of actors as rich people. Matt Griffin's SAG after he's in the chat, he can enlighten too. Thornback is shocked that I've never done coke. I like hippie drugs. I don't like the drugs that people would do in like a rock and roll nightclub. I don't like those sorts of things. I don't like drugs that make you more tuned in to the ferocious flows of capital and media. I like things that help dissolve your spirit and sort of help you extract yourself from the horrors of this world. But um, you know, I think it's an important thing to remember. Well, A, what Urinator says that Drew Barrymore was married to Tom Green, which rules. Um, but the other thing to remember is that most actors don't make a lot of money. You might think to yourself, all the actors make money, but list them, right? You can maybe list 20, 30 maybe actors who are like bazillionaires, but there's thousands of people in SAG-AFTRA, right? I think it's something like the average actor makes it's like $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and the average actor has to live in Los Angeles to do that. And making $50,000 a year in Los Angeles is not good. You got roommates, and you don't live in a great neighborhood if that's what you're making, guys. So
Keep in
most of these
mind,
people are. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, keep in mind that average too is extremely tilted at the top by like seven figure and higher exceptions that really raise the roof on that averaging. So it's you know
Yeah,
there's a lot of people not above that 50K average just because of the way the math works out.
yeah. And it's the same thing for the Writers Guild. Like a lot of my good friends out here are members of the Writers Guild. Many of them, I mean, I have friends that have gotten a really cool job, and then that show ends, and they don't work for 2 years. So it's rough. So there you go. There you go. Coffee is a drug, by the way, guys. I drink coffee. I love coffee, but we can't say that it's not a drug. Alcohol's a drug. Coffee's a drug. A lot of things we take are drugs. So there you go. Emperor Pilaf, that means a lot to me. I like Kierkegaard a lot. I'm glad you do too. But I know some Derek Every said, I would kill to make 50K a year to make art. I mean, it's weird, right? Because I um agree with you there, Derek, but it's also a thing where like a lot of the actors we're talking about here aren't like making 50 a year making art. They're maybe making 50 a year doing a couple commercials for evil companies that are degrading processes and maybe doing a background job in a sitcom where they're treated like shit for just like being there for a bit.
Hallmark movies.
So it's yeah, because I think it's like it's one thing, and this is a bit of a digression, but it's one thing if you live in a more affordable city and you make your own videos or you make music or you do whatever, Patreon, and you have subscribers and you make 50,000 a year truly making your art. That rips. But it's not really that's the case. Maeve Callahan picked the day to stop sniffing glue. So let's go there. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, you wouldn't kill to make 50K a year in California. You would not. Thanks for being here. Thanks for liking the stream, all those sorts of things. Now, one of the things that accompanied this is that I'm wondering, is that one? Oh yeah. I'm just gonna pull up the dehumanizing tweet guy. If you want to put this on screen. Someone said, "Don't go to school, kids. Stay in drugs." Um, yeah, someone said commercial work is so hard. Yeah, it is. Commercial. I had a brief period where I was doing like commercial auditions and that sort of thing, and like it sucks. And I remember when I first moved to LA, I read one of Nick Offerman's books. I have a soft spot for Nick Offerman, and he talked about how he did like a few commercial auditions when he first moved to LA, and then was like, "Actually, I'm just gonna do woodwork in the meantime because I would rather like build things with wood to pay my rent than deal with the dehumanizing process of commercial auditions." The best part about commercial auditions though is when I would go to them, I would just like sit in a room because they cast based on types. And I'd go to a room and it'd just be these like a bunch of dudes in their mid 30s who were white and kind of tall and bald and had beards and just like looked like me. It's nuts. If you ever want to just be like, oh, I'm just a part of a genetic algorithm. Here you go. Uh there you go. So this yeah. Okay. So this is Chris Freeman or Fryman. Um, Chris is a professor at the John Chambers College of Business and Economics at WVU. He does political philosophy, libertarianism, neoliberalism, and wait for it, effective altruism. If you don't know what I think about effective altruism, there's content on the internet that'll let you know. But he said calling strikebreaker scabs is patently dehumanizing. And if your response to this is good, you should probably engage in some self examination. So there you go. We're gonna keep talking about this just to check in with everyone as we keep this conversation going. As always, Wisecrack. My name is Michael Burns. I currently have the effects of a vaccination coursing through my system. I'm telling myself this is good because it means my body is producing an immune response. But part of me is wondering if Robert F. Kennedy is right and vaccines are bad and if I should vote for him in the upcoming election. I don't know. I know that Eric Clapton is playing a benefit for him and Eric Clapton's good at guitar, so I don't know. Um so there's that. I'm here with producer Henry. We're doing the stream stuff that we always do. Yeah, narrow film. I totally get what you're saying there and I get as always, you can join our Patreon if you want. Um, you guys might not know this, I'm still on parental leave for the most part because I had that kid. She's great. She's getting really cute. I know it's typical to say that, but I'll admit my narcissism. The more she looks like me, the cuter I think she is. I'm a fundamentally narcissistic person. I never realized that, but I realize I love her more the more she looks like me. And I know you've always looked at this face and said, if only that face was on a little girl, it'd be gorgeous. Um, but we want to do some more cool stuff on our Patreon. I think a lot of that will get cooking once I'm back full time. We're a very small team, so me not really working is bad for my coworkers who are being awesome and keeping the ship going. Um, but if you want to join our Patreon, if you got $5 to $10 a month, it helps us out. You get some extra stuff there as well. You can always be a member of this channel. One last little plug I'll make, and I posted this on our Twitter. There's a Wisecrack subreddit. Now I love Reddit. I love Reddit even more now that I'm on Twitter. But the Wisecrack subreddit is largely been taken over by one account whose username is like we love Jared Bauer. Jared's the G, the Godfather's channel. We like Jared. I like Jared. But it's someone who's just like obsessed with the fact that this channel sucks because of me. It's a little annoying. And I would love to log on to Reddit and have interesting conversations with people like you. So, oh, Andrew Adams, congrats. So if you're Reddit users, go on the Wisecrack subreddit and say stuff. I respond things to there all the time. I don't know if anyone knows it's me, but I do. So, check it out. Oh, Elijah, congrats, man. June 1st. That's amazing. July 13th. Um, But I would just love it if our Reddit was more fun and we could have discussions kind of like what we have now. Um, so there you go. Although it's fun to log on Reddit and see that people I don't know hope that I die. So back to this tweet by this guy who's a philosopher, um, who does. Sorry guys, someone made a joke that I'm not going to read in the chat that really that really distracted me. Now it is dark. I sometimes like dark humor because I'm sick in the head. So I'm not going to read it out loud, but someone really went for it in the chat. And if you're sick in the head, you'll like it. So this person who's a philosopher by trade said calling strikebreaker scabs is patently dehumanizing. Now I'm gonna like I'm gonna devil's advocate here. So maybe the point is that when someone breaks a labor agreement with a union, that in calling them a scab, we are disregarding the complexity of their humanity. And maybe they made this decision for a reason we don't understand or something like that. Um, and that in doing that, we're further alienating them. Maybe we're calling them out rather than calling them in or something like that, I guess, is where you could get out with the devil's advocate thing. On the other hand, when we call people scabs, right, we're referring to people that work in or benefit from a specific industry in which the majority of the people that work in that industry, the workers in that industry, are striking for the sake of benefiting the lives of their union members, largely against a small contingent of individuals who control the means of that particular area of production. And in scabbing, an individual is basically prioritizing, the CEO and some board members, a very small group of people, over potentially thousands, hundreds of thousands of individual workers who are largely just trying to like have healthcare and time off and solid salaries. So I think there's a way in which calling someone a scab isn't necessarily dehumanizing. I think it's referring to the enormity of the decision that they are making and the way in which they are prioritizing their own self-interest over and against the people they work with, or something like that. Matthew in the chat says saying we shouldn't call scabs has strong you shouldn't punch Nazis energy. Yeah, and then there's like there's a hard line here because I think we talk about empathy, right? Like if someone scabs or if someone pulls the Drew Barrymore and then they pull back, I think we should be like, hey, that sucked that you did that, but I'm glad the good thing is happening now. I'm glad that you're aiming towards the collective, but it makes me think, when I look at this guy's bio, Chris Freeman, if he was ever your professor, let us know. He's into libertarianism, neoliberalism, and effective altruism. Well, libertarianism, a fundamental non-collective political ideology, one that says what primarily matters is the freedom of the individual, not the freedom of individuals to be collective. We have neoliberalism, of course, a theory that boils down to individual freedom mixed with free market economics is the way to go. And effective altruism, a system of ethics that disregards looking at problems from a systemic political and economic angle and talks about individuals, donating money to nonprofits to make things a little better. So we have this individual who's, and again, I haven't read this person's work. Maybe it's good. Maybe it is. I could have read it this week, but instead I gazed into the eyes of my gorgeous daughter. But, this seems to be someone whose entire philosophical POV is about the prioritizing of the individual over the collective. And, maybe you're like, well, I don't like that. That sounds like communism. I don't like communism. That's fine. Maybe you're religious. Most of the religions that people talk about prioritize the collective over the individual. Maybe you're a sports person. What is sports about? Oh, most sports, I guess not like tennis and golf, but team sports are about prioritizing the collective over the individual. Maybe you like theater, you like live music, things like that. Like all these things are about what humans can do together and how that's greater than what they do individually. If you wanted to read some stuff on this, good students out there, like I think Jean-Jacques Rousseau in Social Contract really great about this. He's he gets into the idea that humans simply can do more together than we do apart. And when we share goals and we share projects, we can accomplish a lot more. So I think that it's one of those things where taking this libertarian, neoliberal, effective altruist line and thinking that calling someone a scab is dehumanizing is basically saying that like we should prioritize the right of the individual to do whatever they want, even if it is at the expense of the collective good. And I don't like that. I know that was a long way around to getting there, guys, but I don't really like that. Um, Someone said basically three Ayn Rands in a trench coat. Robot Panda said capitalism is dehumanizing, but we still love it, right? Yeah, and I think too, like you know, if this is a person whose political philosophy again seems to be in full support of a libertarian neoliberal ontology, I guess we could call it. I mean, that's a pretty dehumanizing system. Any system that values individuals for their participation in the market more than it does their baseline humanity, I think isn't good. And a lot of what the unions are asking for, I do think, is fundamentally humanist in that they're asking for individuals to individuals work to be valued such that they can have both a decent standard of living and a relation of benefit relative to the value produced, right? These people are saying, hey, Mr. Netflix, our show made you a gazillion dollars. We would just like to participate in that gazillion dollars or something like that. Um, so there you go. I don't know, but I'm curious if anyone thinks if I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that. What I don't and Henry feel jump in here, but I just it's one of those tweets that like I saw and I already found really annoying. And then when I looked at the bio and I was like, oh my God, you're a philosophy professor, it made me even more annoyed.
Yeah, his
Um,
bio. I don't know if I'm just getting old or what, but I just Twitter
Probably that.
Twitter bios, X bios, the dissonance in them is getting weirder for me. When I see libertarianism next to neoliberalism, next to effective altruism, I mean, this goes back a few years when people started calling themselves like libertarian socialist and things like that, where
Mhm.
just it's all slippery. It's the worst. I hate it.
Yeah. No, again, agreed. Someone said you just make it worse by demonizing. You must aim to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I don't know exactly what that's in response to, but I do think there's a way in which, like, a lot of the responses I saw, let's take the Drew Barrymore example. A lot of folks I saw, writers and actors who engaged with her on this, at least on social media, they weren't like, fuck you, Drew Barrymore, I hope you fucking drown. They were like, Drew, this is really disappointing because as someone who works in this industry, you seem to be forgetting that the demands we're fighting for are things that fundamentally benefit, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? They're like expressing it in a way that's not just like eat shit, which I think is important. So I do think there's a way to call someone out in this way, but also call them out in a way that sort of explains that. And I think in general, like if we're let's get back to the debate thing we talked about earlier, right? Like if you're trying to engage with someone who has a wildly different opinion than you can just be like, fuck you. Or you can be like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but to me it feels like the position that you're espousing is negative to people in X, Y, or Z reasons or whatever it is. Someone says I want to hear what AI thinks. All I care about is what AI thinks. Someone said in the chat, I know you guys stopped doing movie analysis, but what about Wisecrack? Our most recent video is some movie analysis. Hot Take is a show we did that failed more than almost anything we ever did. If you want to be a real deep Wisecrack head, go look up episodes of Wisecrack's Hot Take. It's our panel-esque game show that I hosted. It was very fun to make. We got to work with really fun people like Greg Edwards and Helen Flourish and Riley Anspaugh and Tommy Cook and other people, Dan Hodap, Brittany Johnson, a lot of fun people. But no one watched it. The only episode people watched is the one where James Larson talked about the big haircut industry, which I still think is one of the best things we ever said. Maeve said, "Can we debate and empathize at the same time?" I think that's a really good question. Do you have any initial thoughts on that, Henry? One, debate with someone and disagree with what they think while also exhibiting empathy.
Yeah, I think in certain realms of preference and interpretation, there are like agreeable disagreements to be had. Uh,
Mhm.
I think when we fixate what we're fixated on with debate currently, though, are issues of politics that I just don't find worth approaching in that manner. It's something that I think of when I think
Mhm.
of trans rights a lot. Is like there's all these ways the trans argument, for instance, tries to reactionaries try to obscure it by talking about it as like, well, in sports or well in this situation or this situation. And it's like, why are we having this conversation at all? Because like the baseline is like, regardless of like athletic participation, like don't kill people, like don't do it. Just
Mhm.
like that's one of those things where I mean it's less the
Yeah.
debates causing people to do these things and just like the complete misapplication of the structure.
Yeah. I mean, two things come to mind with the debate and empathy thing. Both personal anecdotes. One would be that when I was in, I want to say 10th grade. Now I was on newspaper staff in high school because, as you know, I was very cool. I was a very very popular cool person. So I was on the high school newspaper, and a friend and a colleague on the high school newspaper, who's one of the smartest people I went to school with. Her name was Sarah Kazi. I hope she's doing well, whatever she's doing in life. We were talking about like politics, and it was this is like 2000, so it was the Bush versus Gore election. I was living in Florida, and some of you might know this is where Florida ruined American history. But I kind of very cavalierly was like, "Oh, George Bush seems cool. I think my dad's voting." Blah 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 blah. And Sarah Kazi explained to me in a way where she wasn't like, "You dumb prick," but she was like, "Some of the stuff you're espousing and some of these political ideas that you just casually think are good are maybe not, and here's why." And she explained to me, as you know, especially a person of color who was, the child of immigrants to America, how from her perspective and things happening in her family, and especially things dealing with America's activities in the Middle East and other parts of the world, she explained some things to me in a way where I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So she didn't say, "You dumb racist fuck." But she was like, "I don't know. Have you thought about this?" And she disagreed with me fervently, but with an empathy that exhibited the fact that she didn't think I was a total piece of shit, which allowed me then to have I wasn't defensive, and it really changed the way I thought about stuff. I can think of another example talking to an older family member a few years ago about trans stuff, and they lovely old Midwesterner they were just kind of like, "Well, I don't think, you're born this way and da 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 da." And then I was just like, "Hey, but like what about, I don't know, like if you just like really felt like your identity was not expressed in your physicality and materiality, that could feel really alienating." Well, and I just like was talking, and I referenced some friends and people I've known who are trans and stuff like that. And through kind of just like sitting there, being chill and talking about it, my family member, at least partially, changed that perspective. I had a similar conversation with a family member a few years ago, kind of after the George Floyd shooting, or sorry, shooting, a murder, where they were kind of like, I don't know, if people just didn't fight back with cops, none of this would happen. But then we had a conversation that was like, but think about what it would be like if you lived in a community where the only relationship you ever had to police officers was antagonistic, and you, as a white middle class person, you see a cop at the sports bar and you say hi to Officer O'Malley. Maybe you're someone from a marginalized community, a community of color, a community that's largely impoverished. Your relationship with police might be totally different. So all that to say is, I think there are ways to have empathy for the humanity of a person while actively fighting against the ideas they have. The other thing I would say is, who among us has not had a bad idea or changed their mind? So I guess we should give others the same level of empathy we might give ourselves. You know what I mean? Like,
The
unless you all had great ideas from the day you were born.
I think the word compassion comes to mind, just like
Yeah.
trying to steer someone towards a good idea in like an empathetic and genuine way. One thing I think about as a moment where I was like in extreme disagreement but had extreme feelings of like empathy or compassion was like during the 2020 in particular presidential race, when like right side broadcasting would follow the Trump rallies, and there'd just be people at these Trump rallies like just trying to sell whatever Etsy wares they could, and like clearly in need of like healthcare in a very distraught situation. And it's like this country really needs a social safety net for people like this, not like a they're out of their mind in want of a messiah and turn towards reactionary ideologies because they don't have any stability or comfort to mitigate that sort
Mhm.
of thing.
Yeah. Well, this empathy thing, I think, relates to something else that happened in the country this week. I'm clicking a thing and watch together. I'll talk
Senator
about charts. Um, but um, you know, there are people in our country. Oh wait, I meant to click the one before that. Let me see if that works. The one that involves the
Say it
theater.
3 times and
Okay,
she appears.
so
In security video from
um,
a weekend performance of
okay, so there is news with Representative Lauren Boebert this week. Now, here's what I'm talking about empathy. Lauren Boebert is a politician who has not exhibited a lot of empathy in her political activity. This is someone who has accused like teachers of being groomers, someone who is virulently anti trans rights, someone who is in many ways as a woman against women's rights, someone who has said things that border on racist and anti-black, someone who is ridden an ideological line so hard that there is no room for any empathy, grace, understanding for others. And this person went to an all ages play last week. I'm sure many of us know this. Um, and did an over the pants jerk off while getting felt up by a dude. Now, are we judging someone for consensually doing an over the pants jerk off to their date? Nah. If that's what you want to do, do it. We're judging that person for getting felt up? No. If you want to get felt up while giving someone a J off over their chinos, do what you got to do. We're not here to kink shame. That's not what we do. But if you're someone who's going to go to an all ages play of Beetlejuice, now I do want to ask her date why he was getting rotted up during Beetlejuice. Like, what about that play made him just be like, oh? But to be the person that gets kicked out of the all ages play in Denver for doing an over the pants J off, for getting felt up, and for vaping, it's maybe he without sin cast the first stone here. The thing that's incredibly ironic about this, of course, this is an individual, much political activity. There's videos of her speaking on the House floor to this extent, is about how things aren't safe for the children. Schools aren't safe for the children. Culture isn't safe for the children. We need to protect the children, except what we need to do with the children is find them at plays on the weekends, vape in their faces, and show them what it's like to rub a guy off inside his American Eagle cargo pants. I don't know. So all I would say is, in this instance, we'll watch the tape in a second. Um, but like the reason why things like this are hard to, I guess I would say, like, forgive, understand, whatever. What's up, Logan Mansion Games? Um, they're hard to forgive and forget because this is someone who's been so horrifically judgmental of others in such a militant way. So let's just watch the video in case you haven't seen this. It's pretty sick.
say it 3 times and she appears. In security video from a weekend performance of Beetlejuice, where the congresswoman was kicked out of the theater for being disruptive. The DCPA says she was vaping. Boebert's team denied that, said the haze was from fog machines in the show.
Okay.
That claim
There's
goes
there.
up in smoke when you
I just love that clip. She said it was from the fog machine. She just
That's
fucking vapes.
so
Do we think she was vaping
cool.
tobacco or weed? Yeah.
It's Colorado. I'm hoping it was weed.
Yeah. Maeve Callahan asked a really good question. Does a person who exhibits no empathy not deserve empathy? You know what, Maeve? I think that it's harder to give that person empathy, but I would say I think they still deserve it if we're going to be humanist, But there you go.
see the video. The pregnant woman sitting behind Boebert told the Denver Post she asked her to stop vaping.
I didn't realize that she's just vaping pregnant woman's face.
and Boebert refused. Her one-woman show continued, taking flash photos, raising her hands and dancing.
I mean, that's
often
honestly
yelling or
worse to
clapping
me.
Yeah, that's
or
way
standing
more
up in the
annoying.
crowd. Boebert occasionally took a break from being disruptive to enjoy the company of her male companion. He briefly had a grasp on the situation.
He briefly had a grasp on the situation.
Yeah, this is the
Shouts to
funnest
ABC's
story
Coming
this
to
guy's
Chicago.
gonna have his whole like local career.
Oh,
Before ushers returned and told Boebert she had to leave. The theater's incident report says Boebert pulled the "Don't you know who I am" card on the way out, appearing to give theater employees the single finger salute.
wow. So there you go, guys. I didn't know about the flash photos thing. Now again, the reason this story is so, I mean, it's funny in general, but it's just like, here's what it gets at for me. And we're gonna wrap up kind of soon, but yeah, Eric said this reporter cooked. Hey, like the stream. Treat liking the stream as you would rubbing your date's thigh during an all ages production of Beetlejuice. Um, but here's what's hard for me is that this individual, she hasn't really like apologized or acknowledged it. This is an individual who clearly, by all accounts in her life, you know, does whatever she wants, vapes in front of kids, jays people off in public, is fine with various acts of public sexuality, all these sorts of things, right? But this same person will turn around and will publicly, in a government role, call public school teachers pedophiles and shit like that. And when she does that, here's the thing, this isn't going to matter. No one in her party is going to care. None of the voters are going to care. She can do whatever she wants in her personal life because there is no relationship between, individual actions and identity and character formation and sort of like ideological performance and commitment. Kind of in the same way that leading up to the 2016 election, there's the video came out where Trump was talking about like grabbing someone by the pussy, and all the libs were like, "He's done. We got him. He's done. He's done." But he wasn't done, guys. Spoiler alert. Because there's not a relationship between what one does as an individual and their performance of a certain identity, which also makes it very clear to us that what these people say politically, things that have effects on millions, billions of people, has no relationship to their own personal values or character or life. What it has a relation to is performing a subject position relative to the power that position gives them, right? It's performing a type of political subjectivity that grants them power. That's what it is. And that's what, and we could go back to Foucault, we go back to lots of folks here who say, yeah, that's what it says, and it's true. My new theory here, and maybe we'll do a video on this, is that, and stick with me here, guys, and let me know what you think about this in the chat. I'm trying out ideas with you. We're dialoguing. So one of the things we know that people on the right, and especially really hardcore people like Jordan Peterson types think, is that liberals, leftists are just like postmodern. They don't believe in truth. That postmodern Marxism, postmodern feminism, they're ruining the world. We did some videos on this with Jordan Peterson. Check them out. But my new contention is that the real postmodernists are people like Lauren Boebert. Well, why? Because her actions exhibit that there is no fundamental category of truth. There's no fundamental relationship between truth and identity and action and all these sorts of things, right? If what people want to say, and again, this is a bad reading of the postmodern tradition, but if people like Jordan Peterson and co, and people like I've heard like Ted Cruz talk about this, if they think postmodernism means there is no truth, there is no fixed identity, nothing matters, well, who is like that more than some of these hardcore right wingers? Even silly examples like, did you guys know that Donald Trump has won his country club's member championship for 20 years in a row and shot like a 63, which is a really good score in golf? And he does it every year? Of course he doesn't. Of course he's not the best golfer at his place, but he says that he is. So he is, because there is no truth. And when there is no truth, people can say and do whatever the fuck they want with zero consequences, and they can do it knowing that there will be a zero consequence things and then deflect from the consequences of those things. And what these same people will then do, of course, is try to hold their enemies to an opposite standard. So that is my new theory, that people on like the contemporary American, I don't know what we call them, alt right, Trump right, whatever, are the real hardcore postmodernist. That's what I think. Um, let's see. Okay, so someone disagrees. They say relationship, right? Wait, is that was maybe a comment to something else? Um, sorry, just catching up on the chat. Um, sorry, I just want to see what you guys think. So I'll keep looking down there. But yeah, and someone says the fact that truth is relative leaves no room for resolution. Alex said, and this is even better, right? She blamed him for being a Democrat, acted like it was checked his party affiliation beforehand, but then it was the first date. Yeah, so like again, here's the relationship to truth. Why did something bad happen to me? Democrats did it. Be clear, this isn't like a Democratic stream. We're not here to be like Democrats are good. They're largely just corporate pieces of s as well. But like, it's it's just like this way to blame all the things on someone else that takes stuff. So someone said, so wait, postmodernism is hypocrisy. No, I do not think that. And again, here's the like real sticking point for my argument here. Postmodernism as a school of thought in philosophy, architecture, literature is one thing, but there is a caricature of postmodernism being used by people on the radical right in America that says what postmodernism is a way of existing where there's no fixed categories of truth, no accountability, no objectivity, yada yada yada. So I do think that's what this is. I'm not saying that like go read some Jacques Derrida and you're like, oh, it's Lauren Boebert, but I am saying that these people are they are the thing that they are against. They are the thing that they're trying to make us scared of. These are the people that are like, protect the children. We don't everyone's pedophiles. But they're the ones that are fucking giving HJs in front of kids.
Yeah,
You know?
it boils down to like Lauren Boebert is not a real Republican, and I don't mean that in like a real American heartland way. Just
Yeah.
like she's just there as serving the role for the system. Like she doesn't care either way. Like if she had like shame associated with prestige to the title, she wouldn't be doing that kind of stuff in the first place. It's just like she's there for the ride. Like she's making the money. She's having the fun. She's not really like ideologically invested in any of this. She's giving the OTPHJ to a Democrat like bar owner who does drag shows. It's yeah, as you say, post truth, and
Yeah.
it's weird to me how many online libs and even leftists like do still hope there's some sort of shaming to be done in criticizing her from angles that are somewhat misogynistic or authoritarian. Like the whole think of the children angle, I find again, she doesn't have the shame to process like any kind of personal attack like that. It's just the
Yeah.
shame of the system. It's seeing like, yeah, no one cares. They're just kind of grabbing what they can grift while it's still griftable.
They love to grab. And hey, give the stream an HJ by liking it. That would help us out a lot. But yeah, no, totally. And yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like this is a person who, it's just people that don't believe the things they say they believe. Now, to be clear, if anyone watches this later and they want to say that I'm being too harsh on one side, I 100% believe there's people on all ends of the political spectrum who say shit they don't believe for power. But I do think sometimes it ends up being like centrist Democrats who actually say what they believe, because they're the ones who will just say like everyone doesn't deserve healthcare. We can make it easier to access healthcare, but I don't think it should be a right. They'll say that like
We have to
we
means
should
test it
maybe
all.
tax corporations. Yeah, they do say what they mean. What they think sucks, but they tend to say it like a little bit more, which in a sense is more disappointing. Henry Chimen's getting love in the chat, as they should. Um, it's a thumb button, so you can J off our thumb if you want to do that, though. Drift King 305 says, "What is the solution, though? I see showing the problem, but no real solutions." I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
mean,
Michael Dodd. I mean, because what is I mean, this is maybe going to be dark, guys. I think we're past it. What are we going to do?
I think
Oh, Michael Dodge. The one that I like that had no views is the hot take episode about haircut. Where the featured presenter was James Larson. Um, but yeah, I mean, how do we? What is? Are we? Can we go backwards from this? Because again, like this individual, people are still going to vote for her. People will vote for her because they think their school's teachers are like, you know,
yeah, I think
teaching them about that. Like it's not going to affect her negatively. So like, there's not like there's no system of like checks and balances or accountability here.
Yeah,
What
I
are we
think
gonna do?
I think in the same way that when liberals go for a think of the children route, like conservatives in bad faith bring up pictures of like Joe Biden sniffing hair and stuff, they're just gonna be all like, "Why is the why are the feminist liberals mad at like an empowered woman?" Like, I know that's not a smart way to interpret it, but I think uninformed
Yeah.
voters who are considered themselves like center right or moderate right will interpret it that way.
Yeah. And also too, we're not shaming people who get or give HJs
Oh no, if
either.
she
Just
was
don't do it
not a
during Republicans are
Republican,
bad,
that'd be
you
a
know?
pretty fun first date.
Yeah, and that's again, like, just be consistent, right? Like like if it came out that like okay, I almost said something. It was probably okay, I stopped myself, guys. I almost said something that was gonna be too much. And if you think to yourself, Michael has no filter, what would he say that's too much? Join Patreon and I'll tell you. Or ask me on the Discord server and I'll tell you. Um Wow, Matthew. Some of these comments today. We'll wrap up soon, but someone in the chat brings up the Anne Frank book. Yeah. So two things related to this tangentially. Two things that happened this week in America. One, a teacher got fired for teaching her children the Diary of Anne Frank. Got fired. Why? Because in the book, Anne Frank acknowledges the existence of penises and vaginas. They exist. Um, Another teacher in South Carolina, I think, is suspended because she used the book Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me. Um, just a pretty good book. Why did she get in trouble? Because it made the white students feel bad. Why did it make the white students feel bad? Because it's a book about the history of slavery, racism, white supremacy in America. Um, so that's where we're at, right? We're at a place where people like Boebert are going to ruin the lives of teachers for teaching kids about Anne Frank or a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates about white supremacy. Um, and yeah, so there you go. Natasha says, I thought the Diary of Anne standard teaching because genocide shouldn't be forgotten. Yeah, we read that when I was in school, but there you go. And thank you for bringing that example up. But let's see. Drift King said, but we need change. You're right. We as individuals need to have something, vote with our wallets, actually vote, show up to PTA meetings. I mean, I do think there's stuff like, you know, if there are local or national politicians who are like really good and you believe in them, do what you can. You know, I think that's totally a reasonable thing to do. I think if you're a parent and your school system is going through this type of shit, show up. As much as you can. I think we can do stuff like that, and I think kind of get back to what we talked about earlier. You know, talk to people, challenge people that are in your life that are adjacent to you to just like think more. Elijah Hughes said, "What are we doing, killing classic literature?" Yeah, and I think this even touches back on something we talked about last stream when we talked about this Hollywood report, Vanity Fair, those two interviews with Richard Linklater, which led us to a discussion of the way in which there is maybe a worry that by not consuming good films, good music, good literature, that we're dehumanizing ourselves. There's a famous Roger Ebert quote that says, I'll paraphrase here, something like, movies are machines for making empathy, or they're empathy machines. The idea for Ebert being that what cinema can do is bring us into really specific stories about people that aren't like us and help us have empathy and understanding. And I know for me, I gave you the story earlier about how a colleague on the Ozzy pushed me to think differently. for me, like watching movies was another huge thing for challenging my ideas, right? Almost like having debates with myself mediated via cinema. Um, and we got to wonder as we, you know, have less books around, we ban books that are challenging. I'm sure there's movie lists that are doing the same thing. It's that idea again that like in one sense, removing art can have a dehumanizing effect on us as individuals. But maybe to get back to Drift King 305, great username, who's like, what the hell should we do? I do think, not to be a hippie, not to be silly, not to be a reductive lib about this, there's at least places in which introducing people to various types of art, whether it be movies, literature, music, poetry, whatever, can help us like rehumanize ourselves. Something like that, you know? But I don't have a big solutions here. We're here to talk about what's going on in society without necessarily having, but we do want nationalized HJs for that's our we're adding that to our political platform. Wisecrack politics, sir. Empathy is good. Everyone should have a good life. HJs for all, and I mean HJ in a gender inclusive. HJs for all. If someone wants to do this, you shouldn't do what I'm about to say. If anyone's ever gotten or given hand stuff in a movie or play, let us know in the chat. You could use an emoji, use a thumbs up. You like the stream? I'm just curious. I'm just curious. That you shouldn't take me up on that. You shouldn't publicly say that, but I'd love to hear about it. Now, I don't want to hear about it, but I think that'd be interesting. Let's think. We have some good videos coming up on the channel, so make sure that you are watching those. Michael talked about the hand labor party. If you haven't watched some of the recent stuff, okay, we're getting some people are saying some stuff in the chat. Um, if you haven't watched the recent ones, check them out. I know that some of you might have seen the thumbnail for the one that's kind of on Guardians and been like, this isn't for me. I would, wow, wow. This is great. On the bus once. Wow. You know what? Since you're being honest, yet I had a situation like that once during the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. What a weird movie. A movie about the army forcing people to experiment with LSD. It's not a good movie. And I we were hands stuff happened. Stuff happened. Okay, it was a pretty empty theater. So there you go. Last days. Wow. Wow. I should never have doubted, you know, the resourcefulness and the handiness of this community. I really have to give you all a big hand for what you're doing. 2 thumbs up and 4 fingers around. But yeah, so make sure you check in with channel stuff. A few things before we go. As always, consider the Patreon. If you have thoughts later, leave comments on the VOD. That helps us out. Um, Consider becoming a member. We have some new emotes coming out next week. That's really exciting. We're excited about it. And my kind of fun call to action is if you're a Reddit user, jump on the Wisecrack subreddit. Let's like take it over. I don't want to say take it over because there's some great people there. Henry, if you have time to throw the link into the Wisecrack subreddit, cool. If not, no worries. Um, did you get off to the goat or Clooney? Why do we have to be so exclusive? Why can't it be both? The goat and Clooney. Maybe I multiple. I shouldn't have said that. Jump on our Reddit as well. We'll be back next week. Again, I'm still in this period of adjusting back to working a bit while on parental leave. We'll be streaming more in the future. So this is kind of our soft launch, getting back into it. But thank you for being here. I'm gonna go so I can try to muster the energy to film some videos today. But as we wrap up, give some love to Henry in the chat, and also our What Arias, our segment started by our good friend Dude Abides. If anyone's been watching anything, listening to anything, reading anything that they really like, let us know in the chat on your way out. I've been reading a book this week by Alicia Kennedy called it's like No Meat Required or Meat Not Required. And it's an interesting book about the history of like veganism and vegetarianism, but looking at it through the politics and economics and race and colonialism. I've been reading it to my 10-week-old daughter. So it's kind of funny. My wife walks in and I'll just be like, and this is how colonialism affects the horrible conditions of meatpacking plants, but these kids got. If you haven't liked the stream, do it on the way out. It means a lot to us. If you have fun in this stream, let people know about it. Tell them to come hang out with us in the future. Remember, you can email us at wisecracklive6@gmail.com. And if you are a member of our Patreon, we have a Discord server. There's a Wisecrack Live room in the server. So jump in there and let us know any other thoughts you have, things you want to get into. And maybe on the Reddit thread, on the Wisecrack Reddit, we could do like a weekly thread after each stream where I could post it and we could keep some of this going. So thanks again, Ricky. Glad you got to participate. Some really good recommendations coming through to consume. You know, there's a lot of good stuff here. Reservation Dogs. That's a good one. Maybe challenging some thinking while having fun. Awesome. Well, let's wrap it up here. So this has been Wisecrack Live for Wednesday, September 20th. I'm Michael Burns. This is producer Henry. You all are the best group of people in the chat on the internet. I'll say it. I don't give a fuck. Who knows? I'll say it. Love you guys. Let's all, try to be principled, but principled with empathy this week. And we'll catch up again in about 7 days. So we'll see you then.
Thanks for watching, y'all. See you next week.